scoring early, often, really at all. Shutout in back-to-back games. They have not scored in 23 straight innings. 4 total runs for the Padres in their last 4 baseball games.
Yeah, we're at the point now where after a 1-5 start here for Juan Soto in his Padres career that they're looking to maybe ship him out in the offseason because it obviously isn't working. No, they'll get it together here. Obviously, we're waiting for Tatis to come back as well, but I'm not panicking here over the Padres. They'll be fine. They'll still make the playoffs, and they should be able to do some damage.
Padres maybe have their own hand over the button. You never know. They might just have to press eject there and make that move. We also got the coaches poll in college football, the preseason top 25. No surprise, Alabama sitting in first place.
Yeah, it's travesty. Miami's at 17th. They should be at least number 2 behind Alabama. Wake up, people. TVD is ready to go.
Interesting. Miami 17. Who was that at number 5? Elite college football program Notre Dame. We'll be right back.
Funerals can be emotionally devastating for a family to go through. Besides the sorrow, loved ones are left with the high cost of arranging a funeral. Funeral Advantage was formed to help protect your family when they need it most. It pays your loved ones up to $20,000 immediately for funeral and any other expenses.
It's a good feeling to know that my family will be taken care of if anything happens to me.
Funerals can easily cost $9,000 or more, but government benefits pay only $255, leaving your loved ones to pay the rest.
It's so easy, just answer a few simple health questions.
This is so affordable, even for someone like me who's on a fixed income.
If you're 40 to 85, get information on how to protect your family. Funeral Advantage is something we all need. There's no risk or obligation. Call now.
Get the facts about how easy it is to protect your family. Call 800-565-6178. That's 800-565-6178.
An attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. Attention parents. If your child was born premature and later diagnosed with necrotizing enterocolitis, also known as NEC, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Certain types of baby formulas have been linked to an increased risk of newborns developing NEC, a severe and potentially fatal intestinal illness that oftentimes requires surgery. If your child was born premature or at a low birth weight and later diagnosed with necrotizing enterocolitis, the baby formula your child was fed may be to blame, and you may be entitled to significant compensation from the manufacturer. Call right now to find out if you qualify. Don't be a victim. Get the help you deserve. There are time deadlines to file a claim, so don't wait. Call right now.
Call 1-800-958-5083. That's 1-800-958-5083.
Attention! Do you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS? If so, you may qualify for the IRS Fresh Start program, so you won't have to make any payments to the IRS. That's right. If you qualify for the IRS's Fresh Start program, you won't make any IRS payments once you are accepted. Once you are in the IRS Fresh Start program, they must stop all harassing and threatening collection activities. Call Tax Relief today now at 800-382-1870 to see if you qualify. Again, 800-382-1870.
Here's an important message from the Diabetes Solution Center. Diabetics understand all too well the pain of pricking your fingers. But now, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can immediately reduce your pain. It's easy to use and helps you make more accurate diabetes treatment decisions. If you are testing your blood sugar 4 or more times daily, injecting insulin 3 or more times daily, or using an insulin pump, call the Diabetes Solution Center right now.
All.
Right back at it here on the early line. Tuesday morning, Donnie Rightside and Kevin Walsh fired off a hot topic segment here in the 7 and 7, but it's time to get down to business here, because just a few weeks back, if you were listening in the afternoon to Moneyline, word broke here, Kevin, right? Oh my goodness. Kevin Durant wants a trade.
Can actually make this kind of a move.
And to be quite honest with you, Kevin, we're taking a look at the scenario in its entirety here. This is Kevin Durant basically saying to me, I don't think they're going to get rid of the GM and the head coach because I want them to. So this is just the easy way for me, again, to grease the skids on my way out of town to force a trade, because you would have saw the different response yesterday from the ownership for the Brooklyn Nets. Hey, you know what? Let's keep this in-house. Let's work through this, which would mean, oh boy, Kevin Durant's got a lot of weight in this organization. But Joseph Tsai, outside of this meeting, basically told us, Kevin, no, I'm backing my guys, which is basically a front to Kevin Durant that says, you're not going to run this franchise here. We run the franchise. You'll play, and you get paid a lot of money to play. If you don't like it, well, tough at this point, which means superstar players in the NBA, they're not going to sit out. Kevin Durant is not going to be like a John Wall down in Houston over the first 3 months of the season while they try to get things underway. But in your mind, like, how does this play out? Because to me, Kevin, I look at this by saying Joe Tsai says, this is my franchise. I'll run it how I see fit. I hired these guys at GM and head coach. They're going to stay. You should deal with it. But we know how that works out, right? What's your thought process on that?
So the surprising thing to me is a tweet from @JoeSci1999 last night that read, this is Joe Tsai, by the way. Our front office and coaching staff have my support. We will make decisions in the best interest of the Brooklyn Nets. You have zero obligation to tweet that out. You can text Sean Marks. You can text Steve Nash. You can call Kevin Durant. You do not need to put out a public statement that, again, let's call it what it is, Donnie. A clear response to Shams Charania of the Athletics report that Kevin Durant has handed down this ultimatum. That's why I'm saying this is now public knowledge through the Shams report and the side tweet. How is anybody going to deny that Kevin Durant has said it's me or them? So I don't think Joe Tsai can possibly fire his coach and general manager because the superstar said that you have to. I just don't think things can operate that way. All of a sudden now, you fire Nash, you fire Marks. I don't know how other general managers or other coaches are going to feel about potentially joining your organization. And that might have lasting effects, truthfully, that go well beyond this current season or this current regime. You will be known as the owner that allowed a star player to, again, publicly somewhat fire your general manager and head coach. So you ask me how I think it plays out, DRS, and we can look at these Brooklyn Nets odds here. I absolutely still believe that Kevin Durant is going to be traded before the start of this NBA season.
Yeah, and also, like, owners like to own their team.
To touch near 50 wins.
Yeah, you know what is also going to be interesting to watch here, Kevin? That win total 45.5, and the reason why I bring that up is here, most people aren't going to run to the window right now and bet the over on the Nets because you're not sure what Kevin Durant's going to do and also Kyrie Irving. But let's say in a bizarro world, you do make the moves for Kevin Durant, he goes out of town, and also you take a look here at Kyrie Irving, he leaves town. You might get a pretty good package back here where they can be competitive. We're not talking about a 50-win team or a 60-win team here. We're talking about just a team being competitive at this point. So we'll see what happens here in the NBA, but a lot more NBA talk to get to a little bit later in the show. But we are going to start to shift focus back to the NFL. Baker Mayfield starting quarterback in Carolina? Say it ain't so, or did we tell you so?
I'm calling in regards about my mother, and I'm here, and I just want to thank you because it saved my mother's life yesterday, and I'd like to know the names of the people that came in and saved her. It's a wonderful thing. Thank you.
With Life Alert, one touch of a button can get you help fast.
For a free Life Alert brochure, call 1-800-450-0515. 1-800-450-0515.
If you or a loved one has mesothelioma or any other asbestos-related cancer, call now. Asbestos manufacturers sold deadly asbestos materials to thousands of companies, putting workers at risk. An estimated $30 billion in court-ordered trusts have been set aside to pay out claims to asbestos victims. You may be entitled to a portion of these funds and receive compensation without filing a lawsuit or ever going to court.
For your free legal consultation, call 800-268-1371. That's 800-268-1371. I'm a non-attorney spokesperson. Are you over the age of 50 and considering buying an annuity in the next 60 days? I have some important news for you. Don't buy an annuity until you understand the pros and cons of annuities. Call now for this free book on maximizing your income in retirement. Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers from leading financial firm J.D. Mellberg. That's right, free. This book reveals little-known truths about annuities in simple-to-understand terms. Grab a pen right now, because we're about to offer you this free book that unlocks the 5 little-known truths we believe baby boomers and seniors should know before buying an annuity, and it's free. Call 800-273-2815. As a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report. We researched numerous products and summarized rates and benefits of annuities, all from Silac Insurance Company. Call 800-273-2815. That's 800-273-2815. Call now.
You heard a screech outside at night, but you can't see what it is because there's not enough light. You need the Bionic Floodlight from Bell & Howell, the solar-powered, motion-activated, multi-directional floodlight, the versatile wireless, safety, security, and outdoor lifestyle light you'll love. And right now, it's yours for just $29.99, and the shipping is free. Order now, and we'll send a second Bionic Floodlight. Just pay a separate fee. Here's how to order.
Call 1-800-604-7066 or order online at bionicfloodlight.com.
Attention! Do you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS? If so, you may qualify for the IRS Fresh Start program, so you won't have to make any payments to the IRS. That's right. If you qualify for the IRS's Fresh Start program, you won't make any IRS payments once you are accepted. Once you are in the IRS Fresh Start program, they must stop all harassing and threatening collection activities. Call Tax Relief today now at 800-382-1870 to see if you qualify. Again, 800-382-1870.
Carolina Panthers made a big move this offseason. They bring Baker Mayfield into town. And our eyes immediately tell us that Baker Mayfield's going to be the guy for these Carolina Panthers. And we find out the word is, oh, not so fast. This is an open competition. Heck, some maybe think that Sam Darnold, being the incumbent, had the inside edge. No, he didn't. 1, Sam Darnold's terrible. 2, they brought Baker Mayfield in for a reason. That reason is because Sam Darnold is terrible. The latest from Ian Rappaport is that we have an inside track for Baker Mayfield. In fact, it is being labeled as Baker's job to lose. I feel pretty confident, Donnie, that he's not going to lose that job, and he will start week 1 against the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I think this was always the plan coming into the season. At least we thought, right? Maybe not Matt Rule inside the building, where every football coach always wants everything to be a competition, even though everybody in the locker room and outside the fan base and whatnot, they know it's not really a competition. It's Baker Mayfield's job to lose, and we always knew that coming in. Now, maybe the only way to save Sam Darnold's job is if he comes out and says, you know what, we see some pronunciation changes, like, Shaq and in the Indianapolis Colts now. We no longer have Darius Leonard. It's Shaquille at this point. If he comes out, Kevin, he goes, you know what? I know I'm not the starting quarterback right now, but the pronunciation on my last name is Darno. We're in for it then. I'm going to push for Sam Darno to be the starting quarterback here of the Carolina Panthers. But outside of that, where it's a change of identity, which sometimes we see quarterbacks want to be called different names, Philip Walker and P.J. Walker from Temple, where you're going to be a better quarterback and you're all grown up, so you just change your name. Yeah. It doesn't work out well. Baker Mayfield is the starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers, for better or for worse. You brought him in for a look-see. You didn't bring Sam Darnold in for a year or two of a look-see. be. You know when you got that, Kevin? Last year, and it was terrible.
Yes.
And your offense finished, I believe, 32nd overall in the league because your quarterback play was terrible. Saying all the best things, all the nice things you can have. It's a quarterback competition. We're going to support each other in the room. Baker Mayfield knows he's a starting quarterback, and so does Matt Rule. We don't need to touch a guy on the shoulder pad week 1 of the NFL season to let us know he's the quarterback. We know it's Baker Mayfield's job.
And the reality is, this is not Kenny Pickett, right? This is not like Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, the same draft class, 2 picks separate, or just Saquon Barkley separating the two. So Baker can't look to Sam Darnold as an elder statesman. And again, he can't look to him as a veteran of this Carolina Panther locker room. The other thing to me is you kind of owe Baker that first game against the Cleveland Browns. If you don't start him game 1 against the Browns, you might as well have never traded for him. That's an embarrassment to Baker Mayfield. At that moment, if he were to get wind that he was not going to be given that game, I would ask out immediately if I were Baker Mayfield. But again, none of that's going to happen. None of that matters because he's going to start. I want to get to some season-long numbers on the Panthers, but in just 1 minute, I do have this question for you, Donnie. Mitchell Trubisky, the clock, the second he starts week 1, if it is him, we'll be wondering when he'll lose that job. There are other quarterbacks that might fit a similar description. Do you think that Baker is one of these guys that is a liability to be benched middle of the season to give Sam Darnold a chance to come back in as the starter?
I do, and it's not because of Baker Mayfield is going to be a horrendous football player, right? It's because I don't know how much stock I'm putting in the Carolina Panthers 2022 season, because if you're looking for look-sees, right, let's see if Baker Mayfield can do it. If he's playing at a high level, it probably means the Carolina Panthers have a winning record. Let's just say through roughly half the season, Kevin, 5-4, you would take them, like, you know what, Baker might be our franchise quarterback at this point, but I don't think the team is good enough to make a playoff run, so there is a chance where they could be under 500 at some point in the season, and you do make the switch to Sam Darnold. I do believe that.
I think it would have to, if Baker is healthy, I don't think you can make that switch. For me, I think it would be a waste of time. Now, you want to sell me on a Matt Corral couple of games? I might listen. But Sam Darnold reps are absolutely meaningless for this football team. But if you do believe that he could possibly find himself on the bench, there's a couple of season-long numbers on Baker. We've got some McCaffrey numbers, and we've also got ourselves a DJ Moore number. Let's start with Baker. Interesting, we don't have yards. We have touchdowns, and we have interceptions. Over under 21.5 passing touchdowns for Baker Mayfield. Over under 14.5 interceptions for Baker. Tough to go off of his last season entirely. You probably want to look at the full landscape. Last year as a team, the Carolina Panthers threw only 14 touchdown passes. 9 of those to Sam Darnold, 4 of them to Cam Newton, and then your boy P.J. Walker notched 1 under his belt. That was to 21 picks. Awful quarterback play for this team last year. What do you think of those 2 season-long numbers on Baker?
By the way, a quick point here. If Matt Corral is getting snaps on this football team, Matt Rule has already been fired, and this team is in full tank mode at that point where they abandon ship and saying, we're not even worried about watching to see if one of these 2 guys can be our starting quarterbacks in the future. We already know that's the fact. And Matt Corral, hold the place hot because next year we're going to get a really good quarterback. But looking at Baker Mayfield's statistics, these are really tough because if you're asking a healthy Baker Mayfield who gets to play 17 games, he blows that touchdown number out of the water. Baker Mayfield's not going to survive the season by playing 17 games, Kevin, and throwing 19 touchdown passes. That would be a disastrous year for the Carolina Panthers. But the issue that we have, and you just brought it up, it's a very valid one. If the Carolina Panthers aren't a very good football team, and what I mean by that is, let's just say 4-8 at some stretch in the season after, let's just say 12 games. You know what? Unless it looks like it's a lost season, we're not going to make the playoffs. Let's start to find out about some other guys. That could knock him out. So the thing I actually like the most about this, I don't know if Baker Mayfield just goes completely off the rails, Kevin, and throws a ton of interceptions. Because if we're looking at that number, he needs to throw 15. I think if he has a very good season for the Carolina Panthers, he's not going to throw 15 interceptions over the 17 games. I think he's going to be more, under the gun here, making the right reads, and they're a winning football team, which means they're not turning it over. But on vice versa, if he's bad, Kevin, how bad can he be? Is he going to have 15 turnovers or 15 interceptions by week 5? I doubt he would even make it that far. So if I'm looking from the touchdown perspective, because if he does get benched, obviously there's a chance he's not going to hit that number. I do think the interception number is high. If he plays a full season, I think he has a very good season where you throw like that 12, 13, maybe 14 interception number to keep it under there. But there's a good chance that he doesn't play well over the first 10 weeks, piles up 10 interceptions, 12 interceptions, and they send him to the bench because the offense is stuck in the mud. I like the under interception number here for Baker Mayfield.
I think it makes sense. A lot of security there for you. It's a good point. I think the overpassing touchdown number is not a bad look, though, at 21.5. Look, last his rookie season, 27. Next year comes back, throws 22. And then in his junior year was a 26-8 touchdown interception ratio there. Last year, 17 touchdowns, but only 14 games played, and he was injured the entire season. Baker's a talented enough quarterback to get you 25 touchdown passes. I believe that. And I think this roster is talented enough to lift up Baker Mayfield and get him closer to 25 touchdown passes. And that has a lot to do with guys like Christian McCaffrey and DJ Moore. Here's the thing for me. When we look at the skill position players, the CMC numbers just look fantastic. But, of course, there is one clear and obvious caveat. Will he stay healthy? But I feel like you are looking at yes-no bets on will this guy stay healthy. Last time he was healthy, in 2019, almost 1,400 rushing yards and 15 rushing touchdowns. He is just phenomenal. That's really all there is to it. And we know that he can impact the game with all of the pass-catching ability as well. Look, the talent we know is there. If you're going under, that means that you just believe he is going to be injured. Under 1,000 yards for Christian McCaffrey running the football. Donnie, do you know that the year after that 15 rushing touchdown season, he had 5 rushing touchdowns in 3 games? Like, we might go Derrick Henry with this thing. I might get 8 games out of Christian McCaffrey and come away with 8 rushing touchdowns there. All of the CMC numbers are lining up to me.
They are, and it is scary. It is a bet on whether or not he's going to stay healthy. If you look at that 2019 season, and again, it seems like it was so far away that you sort of forget how dominant he was, Kevin. 1,400 yards on the ground, 1,000 in the air. If you round that up, it's 2,400 total yards and 19 touchdowns. I mean, you couldn't stop the guy. But then, yes, you see 225 yards the following year through 3 games, 7 games in 2021, 442 yards on the ground. He got paid. They're going to use him. And at least if they're not going to say, you know what, he might not be the future, you're going to showcase this guy this season to say, hey, he's still got it and he's healthy. It's hard for me because you're looking at those numbers, 925. Kevin, he could have that 925 after like 7 weeks of the season where it's like, whoa, opening day, he's healthy. Look at that. $150 on the ground and 75 yards receiving. He's that type of player. And the same thing, we look at the rushing touchdowns at 7.5. You know what the interesting part about that is too? You no longer have a guy like Cam Newton as your quarterback. Why is that important? Because Cam would run the football in from the 1 or 2 yard line. Darnold's not going to do that, even though he did actually start out decently last year running the football in when they were an okay football team. Baker Mayfield's not going to do that. So if I'm looking at a number for myself, we know Christian McCaffrey is great in the passing game and the rushing game, but also he's going to score. And I know you like to use this, the anytime touchdown market for Christian McCaffrey and the Panthers, probably going to be on fire this year. He's going to score a lot. If he stays healthy, he breezes right over 7.5 touchdowns there.
The only reason that market won't be on fire is because you probably won't be able to bet it because this is a guy that gets priced at around -200 to score touchdowns. I mean, that's what happens with Christian McCaffrey. You want a juicy number on CMC? 25-1 offensive player of the year. The market was, again, essentially built for him. He's 8-1 to win the comeback player of the year award. I do wonder if there's going to be a situation, because Derrick Henry's the favorite for comeback player of the year, could it be a scenario where one of these guys wins a comeback player and another guy wins offensive player of the year? Great stuff on the Carolina Panthers. A lot more headlines in the NFL to get to. You keep it right here. It's the early line on Sports Grid.
If you or a loved one has mesothelioma or been diagnosed with another asbestos-related cancer, call now. An estimated $30 billion in court-ordered trusts have been set aside to pay out claims to asbestos victims. You may be able to receive compensation without ever going to court or filing a lawsuit. Thousands of hardworking men and women have been diagnosed with mesothelioma because manufacturers put profits ahead of safety. Manufacturers knew the risks of asbestos exposure for years, but knowingly manufactured and sold deadly asbestos-containing materials, putting millions of American workers at risk. These manufacturers have tried to avoid compensating their victims, but the courts have ordered them to set aside an estimated $30 billion in trust money for the victims of asbestos. Call now to see if you're entitled to a portion of the $30 billion. You could receive compensation without filing a lawsuit or going to court.
For your free legal consultation, call 800-268-1371. That's 800-268-1371. I'm a non-attorney spokesperson.
Funerals can be emotionally devastating for a family to go through. Besides the sorrow, loved ones are left with the high cost of arranging a funeral. Funeral Advantage was formed to help protect your family when they need it most. It pays your loved ones up to $20,000 immediately for funeral and any other expenses.
It's a good feeling to know that my family will be taken care of if anything happens to me.
Funerals can easily cost $9,000 or more, but government benefits pay only $255, leaving your loved ones to pay the rest.
It's so easy. Just answer a few simple health questions.
This is so affordable, even for someone like me who's on a fixed income.
If you're 40 to 85, get information on how to protect your family. Funeral Advantage is something we all need. There's no risk or obligation. Call now.
Get the facts about how easy it is to protect your family. Call 800-565-6178. That's 800-565-6178.
Are you over 50? Would you like to get up to 33% more income in retirement? Then call now for this free book, Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers, from a leading financial firm on maximizing your income in retirement. That's right, free. This free book reveals little-known secrets about annuity strategies in simple-to-understand terms that will help you make the right choices before buying an annuity. And it's free. Call right now for your free book, and as a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report. We researched over 1,200 annuities and summarized the rates and benefits of annuities from financially strong insurers. Again, that's Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers and a free annuity rate report, both absolutely free, for calling Annuity General today. Supplies are limited. Call now.
Call 800-830-7360. That's 800-830-7360.
Back with you here on Sports Grid, continuing to look at some of the top headlines in the NFL, and there's a lot for us to sink our teeth into. It starts with the Baltimore Ravens and J.K. Dobbins off the pup, who now looks like he will actually be ready for Week 1. Yesterday, we went head-to-head at the quarterback position, talked Kyler Murray versus Lamar Jackson. Both DRS and I were interested in some of these Lamar numbers. We continue that conversation on Moneyline, 1 p.m. start time, East Coast there on Sports Grid Radio. Make sure you check it out. DRS and I run it back, different topics, different angles, different looks. Talking a little bit more about these Baltimore Ravens. Maybe that Lamar MVP price does make some sense, but the Dobbins news is interesting. Maybe takes up a little more of the workload. Where do you land on this J.K. Dobbins news and its impact on the Lamar Jackson markets?
Yeah, and you know, if we look at J.K. Dobbins overall, right, Kevin, 2020 season, which was his rookie year, he was phenomenal. 805 yards on the ground, 6 yards per carry, 9 total touchdowns that season. So then you figured, okay, with Ingram gone, he was going to be the lead back last year and ready to take off and explode. I couldn't get enough of J.K. Dobbins' numbers last year, and barely even gets into any action at all, basically with an off season. But also, let's take a look at the injury that he had, right? Blow out a knee, you damage some things like that. It takes a while to get back. But this wasn't Odell Beckham Jr., Kevin, that injured it in the Super Bowl in February. He injured it so early on, you're basically at that 12-month feeler where it's like, all right, should be able to get back in here and do a lot of damage this season. Let's see where it goes. I love the fact that J.K. Dobbins is back in because you need that dominant lead back. You need a guy with Lamar Jackson in the backfield when they say, all right, they're running the football. Who cares who the running back is? We just want to focus on Lamar Jackson. You can't do that with a healthy J.K. Dobbins, and a good running game with a running team is always going to help out the quarterback and his statistics.
1,000%. These are things that go hand in hand. When you look back to the Baltimore Ravens, the year that Lamar Jackson won the MVP, while he again was, of course, the star of the show with 1,200 rushing yards, Mark Ingram, Donnie, was a 1,000-yard rusher, and Gus Edwards racked up 700 yards on the ground. And that was a team that ran for just under 3,300 yards. So, no, this is not, if you're looking to bet Lamar MVPs or even the Lamar rush yards, you do not need him to be the only man in town. You need things to be free-flowing and opened up overall in Baltimore. Another Ravens story yesterday was Justin Tucker being paid, and another story, though, that to me circles right back to Lamar Jackson. Look, I don't have Justin Tucker over points props for you for the season here, okay? We know he's important, and it's big that he's staying in Baltimore. He's not shifting the win total, but the fact that the Ravens are continuing to pay a couple of people and none of them are Lamar Jackson does raise the eyebrow a bit. Do you think this Justin Tucker contract has any impact on the Lamar Jackson situation?
I don't think it has any impact, but let's just take a look at Kevin optics in the NFL here. We're not looking at a holdout situation for Justin Tucker. He wasn't coming into camp where he didn't have a contract that was going to extend it, past the season or any more money in there. They basically have a kicker that says he's the best in the game. Let's treat him that way here. Oh, look, another kicker, Kevin, in the NFL got paid a little bit more money than Justin Tucker. Call his agent right now. Let's correct this and make it right. Let's make him the highest paid kicker in the game, which he should be because he's the best player at his position. And everybody would agree upon that. I sit back and watch it. Man, he's a big part of that team. Anytime you cross the 50-yard line, it feels you have automatic points for the Baltimore Ravens because of how good that Justin Tucker is. But you got your quarterback, who's the MVP or was a previous MVP, the future of your franchise that's saying, I need to get paid. I should be getting paid now. It should have taken place earlier, but it hasn't. The optics are just terrible where you said, you know what? We don't have to extend Justin Tucker right now, but you know what? Make the phone call here and make him happy, realizing that your quarterback is still trying to negotiate right now. Can you imagine if let's just say the way it should have come out here? We know, look, Justin Tucker is the best kicker in football. He's going to get the highest salary that a kicker is ever going to have in the NFL. But we're focused right now on Lamar Jackson and getting this deal done. The minute that deal is done, we'll make Justin Tucker the highest paid kicker in the game. But our focus is on Lamar Jackson and getting this deal done for a football team. Does that sound a lot better than, hey, big extension coming out of Baltimore? Oh, that must have been Lamar Jackson. No, we wanted to take care of our kicker.
At the end of the day, where I'm starting to land on this situation a little bit here is I think we need to factor in the chance that Lamar Jackson is okay with leaving the Baltimore Ravens. Because, again, the temperature of this early was that Lamar wasn't necessarily pressing the issue here to be paid. I'm not saying it's Lamar's first choice, but he might be open to the idea. We know how the franchise tag game goes. It really goes one of two ways. Either you go and pay way above board, like Dallas ultimately had to do with Dak Prescott, or you continue to pay well above board, but then the guy eventually leaves, like what happened with Kirk Cousins. So this is, I think, something we will continue to keep an eye on. And I don't think Lamar is someone that's going to hold out, hold in. I think he's going to be there. I think he'll be there week one. He'll play the whole season as hard as ever. But the Ravens, I think, have perhaps misplayed their hand. And you need to look at the landscape here. You're not going underneath the Kyler number. That's on you. You let Kyler get paid before Lamar Jackson. That can't happen. The guy won an MVP. Every single year you have Lamar Jackson, you are a Super Bowl contender. At minimum, you're going to the playoffs. This is an 8-3 football team last year. Lamar Jackson was injured. They lost out. They went from the 1 seed to losing every single game they played. And we're questioning the value of Lamar Jackson to this football team. Nonsense. And nonsensical moves made by the Baltimore Ravens here if they are not prioritizing keeping Lamar Jackson a part of their organization. We continue to look at teams, though, that might be ready to move on from some first-round picks here, and that might just be the Vegas Raiders and Josh Jacobs. And, Donnie, I think you hit the nail on the head when we talked about this in our 7 and 7. They have said that we are not shopping or calling teams on Josh Jacobs. Well, because they don't need to. They did enough. The story is out there. Maybe they're thinking about trading him. They play him in the Hall of Fame game. I mean, there are star players that don't play any preseason. The Raiders didn't send Devontae Adams out there or Derek Carr to help build up rapport. Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, nowhere to be found. And Josh Jacobs is out there battling with Zamir White and Amir Abdullah for touches in the Hall of Fame game. Message sent, DRS. If you want Josh Jacobs, you call us.
So here we go with the Patriots way, Kevin, right? Hey, we got a really good running back. I don't want a really good running back. I want 5 running backs that can do the same thing, that'll impact the game the same way, and nobody's a superstar. So if anybody steps a little bit out of line, I can just put them to the back of the line, and they won't be playing this weekend. I don't understand. First of all, it is a new regime, I understand, with the coaching staff coming in here and who they want to play. I get it. But if we're looking at Josh Jacobs, 3 years in the NFL, 1,150 yards on the ground, 1,065, and last year at 872. If I'm a team, as in the Raiders, where I look and say, boy, I'm set at wide receiver. You know what I really need? A number 1 running back who's proven that he can get it done in the past to be my bell cow this year. Running backs, as we know, they're used and abused in the NFL. The first-round draft picks going to get those 5 years and then probably not get assigned to another big deal. Now, Zeke Elliott, different story with the Dallas Cowboys. There are instances where these guys play 5 years for a team and get a big extension. But I don't understand this. I really don't. And it's only because of Josh McDaniels coming over from the Patriots going like, hey, do you remember the offenses I ran with 19 running backs? I would have a guy run for 175 yards in 1 week and not get the football the next week just to keep another team off its toes. I don't get it here, but you're right. Where they say they're not trading them, I look at that roster. There's a million running backs on that team for the Raiders, and there's no way you're putting your starting running back out here for week 1 in the NFL, and he's getting burned in the first preseason game where virtually nobody plays. Why did Devontae Adams get burned? Why didn't Derek Carr get burned out there? Hey, but you're going to send Josh Jacobs, the running back position, which is the most vulnerable, and you're always trying to say, hey, keep the tread light on these tires. We got to extend this guy's career, and you're running him in the Hall of Fame game. Something's not adding up here for the Vegas Raiders.
And honestly, do we think that Josh McDaniels would be fearful of going into the season with his Amir White, Kenyon Drake, and Amir Abdullah at backfield? I don't. I think he'd be fine with that. As you said, the Patriots, they find their running backs. So I think that they've put feelers out there, and they want to see what Josh Jacobs could potentially bring back. One team that maybe makes a phone call, the Philadelphia Eagles, or maybe the Eagles just love Kenneth Gainwell. The latest coming out of camp there is that Kenneth Gainwell is continuing to grab the high leverage snaps in camp. It appears that Gainwell might just be this team's starting running back, other than they don't really like to acknowledge that he is the starting running back. But here's what has happened. On this show, we had this story a week or so ago, maybe a little bit longer. And we were able to give you the over-under for season-long numbers on Miles Sanders. Those numbers are gone because the FanDuel Sportsbook, as I said, this is the point we made with the Baker Mayfield. They post Baker numbers because they know he's the starting quarterback for that football team. We're not posting Miles Sanders numbers because you're going to have to be betting under. This guy might not be RB1 on the Philadelphia Eagles depth chart. In a time where everybody's out there requesting trades and trying to move on, I got to be honest with you. I really like the talent that is Miles Sanders. I'd be sad to see him go. But my advice to Miles Sanders, Donnie, is to start running up the trade request move. Why are you staying here in Philadelphia? You know you're going to need to be paid, and the Eagles are clearly not going to be the team to pay you, nor put you in the best chance to acquire a legitimate contract because you're no longer the guy for this football team. You're coming off of a season where you missed more games than you scored touchdowns, though that wasn't hard. You didn't score any touchdowns. I'm sorry, but I don't know why Miles Sanders, I think the Eagles are a better football team if Miles Sanders is there. But that doesn't matter to Miles Sanders. I really think that at some point he probably should go and talk to Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman and ask about changing teams.
Yeah, and it's one of those where I believe Nick Sirianni's kid was at one of the press conferences, and I believe he had a Miles Sanders jersey on, so they had a little bit of play back and forth. But the Eagles let you know behind the scenes and also without any press releases of what they're actually thinking. The reason why I sit here and talk about the Philadelphia Eagles starting quarterback job, Jalen Hurts, and I say they haven't found their quarterback. You know why? Because the Eagles told me they haven't found their quarterback. Never have I seen a kid that's coming into this. Call him a kid because Jalen Hurts is only going into his third year in the NFL. He's still relatively young. And they don't support him by saying, what are you kidding me? It's our starting quarterback here. We're going to sign him to a long-term deal after the season's done when he dominates. We love the kid. He's here. We don't hear that here. So you know what? We see the actions, right? Oh, you know what? Let's kick the can down the road in the draft, Kevin, right? You know what? Let's not give Jalen Hurts too many weapons this year because if he succeeds, we might have to keep him. We're not sure we want him. So let's make sure we have 2 first-round picks next year. So in case we need to move up to get a quarterback, we will do that. That hangs over his head. The reason why I say that is Miles Sanders was a high draft pick for a running back. He has a ton of talent. But the fact is he's healthy right now, and they come in the training camp, hey, Nick Sirianni, Miles Sanders running with the twos. Don't read into it. Don't read into it. All start. Now, hold on. Every other starter that you have coming in from last season is with the ones. Why is Miles Sanders? Not just the way the reps worked out. Don't buy any of that. If Miles Sanders is up on the block and they can get a 4th rounder for this kid right now, I do believe they would trade him because they'll tell you Boston Scott and Kenneth Gainwell, every bit as good as Miles Sanders, which is ridiculous, but he does have some problems with being injured and also fumbling the football. And yes, I know running backs are expendable, but the fact of the matter is that Miles Sanders didn't show up to camp as the number 1 running back. That tells you they don't really trust him all that much, Kevin.
And at the end of the day, we know what happens when regimes changes hands. Josh McDaniels didn't draft Josh Jacobs. Nick Sirianni didn't draft Miles Sanders. He did draft Kenneth Gainwell, though, and it looks like he trusts Kenneth Gainwell a lot more. We'll talk about another guy that was drafted this year next as we close out hour number 1 on Sports Grid.
Here's an important message from the Diabetes Solution Center. Diabetics understand all too well the pain of pricking your fingers, but now by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor or CGM, you can immediately reduce your pain. It's easy to use and helps you make more accurate diabetes treatment decisions. If you are testing your blood sugar 4 or more times daily, injecting insulin 3 or more times daily, or using an insulin pump, call the Diabetes Solution Center right now.
You heard a screech outside at night, but you can't see what it is because there's not enough light. You need the Bionic Floodlight from Bell & Howell, the solar-powered motion-activated multi-directional floodlight, the versatile wireless, safety, security, and outdoor lifestyle light you'll love. And right now, it's yours for just $29.99, and the shipping is free. Order now, and we'll send a second Bionic Floodlight. Just pay a separate fee. Here's how to order.
Call 1-800-604-7066 or order online at bionicfloodlight.com.
If you've been injured in an accident that's not your fault and you don't have an attorney, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to tell you what your case is potentially worth. Hello, I'm Gina, along with spokesperson Rob. Rob, tell the folks at home who should be calling right now.
Well, just like you said, Gina, anyone who's been injured in an accident that was not your fault, you don't have an attorney, give us a call right now, and we're going to let you know what your case is potentially worth.
Thanks, Rob. So what kind of calls have we been seeing today?
Well, Gina, we're getting calls from all types of accidents today. Work accidents, slip and falls, truck accidents, and most commonly, car accidents. So if you were injured in an accident that was not your fault, you don't have an attorney, take that first step, pick up that phone and give us a call. We're going to answer your questions, and we'll let you know how much money you can get for your accident.
Thanks, Rob. All right, folks at home, you heard it. Go ahead, don't hesitate, take that first step and call now.
Hi, folks. Medicare Part C plans with extra benefits like getting money added back to your Social Security check may now be available to you in your zip code. Make sure you're not missing out. It's simple. 1, call the number on your screen. 2, they'll look up your zip code and see if you're eligible. 3, they'll check for plans with extra benefits like prescriptions, dental coverage, and the benefit that adds money back to your Social Security check every single month. Call now.
I called to get everything I deserve.
I called to check my zip code for a plan with a benefit that adds money back to my Social Security check.
I called to check my zip code.
Millions of people have called the Medicare Coverage Helpline. Call, check your zip code, see if you're eligible, and get what you deserve. Call now.
Call 1-800-810-7576. That's 1-800-810-7576 now.
All right, let's close out hour number one here with a look towards the Tennessee Titans. We just talked about the Eagles, and they're all kind of connected here because A.J. Brown is now a Philadelphia Eagle, catching dimes from Jalen Hurts on a regular basis during practice. And now the shifting depth chart of this Tennessee wide receiver room you were anticipating would have Treylon Burks, who they took with the pick that they got back from the Birds in the first round, to be maybe their star wide receiver. Well, Donnie, Miles Sanders is running with the 2s and the 3s. No big deal. Treylon Burks running with the 2s and the 3s, who's a second choice to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. Might be a little more concerning in Tennessee.
Yeah, they tried to play this off as, we lost A.J. Brown, so we just got the next A.J. Brown. He's going to be cheaper, and he's not going to be saying, I need the football every other player. And all of a sudden, he gets brought into off-season activities, right, where they're not mandatory, but the rookies are going to show up because what are you going to do, hold out and say, you know what, I'll see you in training camp? No, you get in there. And day one, he couldn't complete the first practice of OTAs. Kevin, we're talking about shorts and not even helmets at this point because they found out they had a severe case of asthma. So that right away rang bells like, now hold on here. Did anybody do any research on this? And they tried to play it off, you know what? It's not any big deal. Don't worry about it here. So here we are now in training camp. And if you look and just say Treylon Burks and do a Google search, it basically just comes up, Treylon Burks drops footballs. And I say to myself, my goodness, because if you were Vrabel, if you remember in the offseason, if this is my team, and we're not trading A.J. Brown. 3 days ago, he's up at the podium like, hey, man, A.J. Brown got traded. And the guy looked like he wanted to throw like the entire, press conference into the sun at that point. But that's what happens. Like, oh, no, we gave you Burks. We'll be fine. That's what happens. Guys, prospects, when we talk about them, right? How are prospects better than the thing on the field that's dominating? It doesn't look good here for Tennessee. They needed an upgrade here at the wide receiver position, and they're not getting it.
No, here's what does potentially look good. Robert Woods, 750.5 receiving yards for the season. A.J. Brown is the lead dog in Tennessee, 1,000 yards, and then last year, 869, but in only 13 games. If Robert Woods is wide receiver 1, he should be an 800-yard receiver at minimum in Tennessee. Back to the NBA next.